So I just want to welcome everybody here, and I'm hoping that today that we can answer a lot of your questions. But before we start, staff has prepared a short video about GRF.
The Golden Rain Foundation, often referred to as GRF, is organized under the California Corporations Code as a nonprofit, common interest development. GRF is the trustee of the Golden Rain Foundation Trust Agreement that was established when the community was founded and provides amenities and services to residents of Laguna Woods Village. Amenities include the Community Center, 7 clubhouses, 5 pools, 2 fitness centers, the Equestrian Center and trails, 2 garden centers, 2 golf courses, the tennis complex, plus the fine arts and crafts facilities. GRF provides important services residents count on: the private bus system, security patrols, secured gates, cable system, TV6, roads, parking lots, and the maintenance of all common buildings and properties. GRF also oversees Laguna Woods Village's extensive social and recreational programs. GRF Board of Directors are elected by the members of 3 mutual housing boards: Third, United, and Mutual 50. The members of these boards are called corporate members. GRF board members serve 3-year overlapping terms. Approximately 1/3 of the board seats are filled by annual election. Each member of a mutual corporation is a resident member of Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods. On behalf of the GRF Board of Directors, we are glad you have joined us today and look forward to spending time with you.
I asked to have media put this video together because I don't know if everybody realizes the responsibility that GRF has. We're basically the face of this community. Everybody comes here because they want to enjoy our resort-like amenities. So I wanted this wow factor. Our responsibility based upon the trust. The trust, basically gives us the authorization as trustee to manage these facilities. And that means the clubhouses, the tennis courts, the bocce ball courts, is this on? Okay, is that better? Okay, great. Okay, so everything here that you enjoy, plus the services. I mean, we're talking about the bus service, we're talking about social service, we're talking about, resident services. So GRF oversees residents, all the services, and they oversee the facilities, and they oversee the clubhouses, and they oversee special events that you get to enjoy, through the year. So it's a big responsibility, a huge responsibility. And I have to tell you that this current board that you have on GRF does a wonderful job as far as overseeing those amenities. We work closely with staff in order to make sure that everything is maintained and is working, for this community. So this is completely different what I have written here. but anyway, I just wanted to express my thoughts as far as letting you know that we're not just a facility and events. This is a community spirit, and we commitment to the values that define us. And I want to thank you for being part of this extraordinary journey with us. And we eagerly embrace the golden years that lie ahead. So I want to introduce the directors that are here today in order to be able to answer some of your questions. So, my name, you don't know me? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm Bunny Carpenter, and I'm the president of GRF. And I want to introduce Yvonne. She's here today. And Yvonne is CAC chair. So if you have any complaints about recreation, go to her. CAC. Okay.
What is CAC?
CAC is a Community Activities Committee, and they meet once a month on the second Thursday. Anyway, you'll be able to find out when they meet, and if you have any questions about recreation or the facilities or the clubhouse, I invite you to come to that meeting and pose your questions. So, Reza Karimi, he is one of our vice presidents, and he is also chairs the MNC. And then we have Jim.
Which is, what's the MNC?
Maintenance and construction. Sorry. Okay. All right. So Jim is our treasurer, and he is also over the chair of finance. And he has a wonderful background in that field, and I can tell you that his contribution towards GRF has just been wonderful. So this is Jim Hopkins. So at this point, I don't know if any of the directors want to make a comment, or if we should just go ahead and get started with the questions. But we are here to answer your questions today. And do we have another microphone that can go? Okay, it's right there. Okay, great. Now I put my glasses.
Did you introduce Juanita?
Is it working?
Introduce Juanita Skillman? Did you introduce Juanita?
I'm sorry.
I'm Juanita Skillman, and I'm the acting secretary since Joan Millman is under the weather.
I really apologize. Okay, let's get started.
So anyone that has any questions or comments should step up to this mic and face this way, or hold the mic and face this way. The reason is it's being filmed, and we want to see everybody's face.
Now looking square in the eye.
Looking square in the eye. So, by the way, there were some folks that requested that. We normally don't film town halls, but there were people that requested it because I think the GRF has not had a town hall in some time. In years. Okay. Okay. Thanks for correcting us. So, but we want to make this as open as possible and let everybody get the chance to speak and also be seen.
Okay. First
So
question.
with that, can you step up, sir? And then state your name. Should we ask for manor numbers? Yeah. Name and manor number.
Thank you so very kindly. My name is Ramesh Joshi. I live in 665 Via Los Altos, Unit P. P as in Papa. Sometimes when I say P, people think I'm saying B. Many packages go to B, and the B packages of B come to me. I have lived here 9 years. This is one of the best facilities, I think, in our country as compared to many other facilities of the same kind. And some of the people here are really great. And the administration is also very good. But some of us who are people of color have some of the difficulties you might have thought about, which other immigrants in the past have felt. Even the immigrants from the Europe also felt. The result is that it is made unpleasant by some of the people, not all the people. Most of the people are extremely nice. But there are some, and once one starts something stupid, other people start working with him and they hurt us. Actually, decency and
Excuse me, do you have a question for GRF?
Beg your pardon?
You have a question for GRF?
Yes, I'm saying question. My question is, we cannot go anywhere to complain and talk about it. And people who are old, they can also don't listen unless they are told. We are going on a road, we are driving, everybody slows down when a police officer comes, even if you are driving slow. So I'm saying we should have possibly an ombudsman or a committee of ombudsmen to whom anybody can go when they are bothered by anything. That's what I'm suggesting, that an advisory officer or diversity officer. See, I'm an old man, I'm 91, so I forget words these days. I'm not as efficient with language either. So probably an ombudsman or a diversity officer or a committee of ombudsmen whom people can approach and problems can be solved.
Thank you.
Well, do you want to answer on, you want to answer?
Yeah, just, and I don't want to get into it, but I think if you're having issues regarding what you just talked about, there is compliance in those official ways, but I think I'm not sure that's a wholesale problem, but if you're experiencing it as an individual, certainly there are ways to address it on an official way. And, well, first of all, if it's a real incident, there's a compliance office. You can actually have a complaint. I myself had a complaint about 4 years ago. Okay? So I know they get addressed. And it wasn't along those lines, but it was a complaint. And I was not on the board at that time. So, so I was essentially a resident, no board member. So I would suggest that there are avenues for real issues, not just how you feel, but there are avenues for real issues that take place. Sure.
I'm Sue Kwong, and I live at 209B. And this is not an official way to handle these things, but there is a new club called Community Bridge Builders. And it was started to try to get a better cooperation and better understanding among the communities. And so the first meeting that they held, they had over 800 people that had signed up to be members. So I think the community is trying to address your issues, but of course the people who really understand the issue are attending the meetings. But I think Jim answered that very well.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate that. And I would just ask that, this is
There's someone ahead of him over there.
Oh.
People are lining up over there.
Oh, are you lining up over here?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sir, we'll let him go. All right, and on this issue, I would like to move on because, there are some issues that GRF can address, or just things about GRF that we can impart. This is more of a social issue, I think. It's a social construct that I'm not sure GRF has any level of control over.
Thank you very much. My name is Andre Tor. I live in 188B Avenida, Mallorca. And I have several questions here. First question is about Building E project, okay, remodeling. We've requested the space utilization report, and we have finished the report. We have hired somebody from outside, finished the report, but GRF is holding the report, refused to share with us, okay? And their excuse is that it's too complicated, we don't think you can understand it, okay?
Andre?
Hold on, it's my time. Hold on, it's my time.
Please stick to the question and then we'll answer, okay? Thank you.
The question is, why are we not allowed to see the report? The report is that, my understanding to the report is unfavorable to GRF's recommendation.
Andre, you're asking a question, can we answer it?
I have another
You
question.
asked the question, the first question was, why wasn't the space Right, so we would like to answer that question,
Okay.
and when we answer that question, then please we'll answer the next question.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, that's fine.
Do you have another question?
His question is
So
why.
we're gonna, okay, well, let me answer that question. A couple of things. One is the space planning, part of the space planning process was to get a study, a utilization study. That is not the end result of where the proposal goes. It is part of all the data that gets collected to do that. Now, one of the reasons we have chosen not to publicize it, and by the way, we've gone to our attorney, and the attorney says we do not have to do that, and should not actually. The study is very detailed. The study is very detailed, and also, there's a reason you can't just walk up on the second floor in the community center. It contains all of the places where things are on that second floor, and even the third floor and the first floor, places that you never even looked at or thought about. So it's not just the personnel and the personnel movements. It has to do with all of that. The other part of that is, it is just some data being used for the final decision. We haven't made a decision. In fact, it's the mutuals as well as GRF that will participate in that final decision. We're a long way away from a decision. We're a long way away from a decision. Okay.
So one of the things that I want to add to what Jim said is we decided to, we are going to have a panel. And that panel is made up of representatives from United and from Third. And we will work on ideas on, and Mutual 50, apologize.
Susan.
Right, and we'll come up with some ideas, and when those ideas, we have to be able to verify those ideas to see if they're feasible. And then when we do that, we'll bring it out to the public. But please understand that when a space planning involves employees and a second floor that is secured, then we do not, provide that information to the public. We have to keep it confidential. So thank you.
Is there another question on this particular subject?
Yeah, I just have some concern that we pay the money, but we are not allowed to look at it. Okay? Yeah, they great job of laughing at that idea. That's how they deal with it. You are not allowed to look at it. They don't believe that we can see better. Okay, so.
They asked the question and they answered it.
Yeah, the question is, why can't we see it? It's not about individual employee. Come on, it's my time. You want to talk? Wait for me.
So Andre, we already
Okay,
answered
the next question is that, please don't think you have to spend all the money. If you can save money, give it back to us. Okay, there's no need that I'm on GRF, I have budgeted this one, and I'm going to spend all of them.
That's not a question.
Think about it and save the money. The question is, do you have to spend all the money? Budget money. And where are the surplus that we have received from those past years? Let me finish my question. Please. Please, let me finish my question. The question is, where are the surplus for the past few years that we should be reimbursed?
No, can't be readjusted.
Okay. Then that's a good question. Very good question. You have received,
But it needs to be replaced.
Andre.
She's asking questions.
Andre, please, no debates here. Thank you.
Okay, wow. As part of the budget process, surpluses are credited to the next budget process. Over the last 3 years, counting 2024, GRF has given back $3.5 million of surplus. Most of it came from COVID, when things were closed, and so the budget expectation of spending did not materialize, and so there were surpluses. The surpluses amounted to $3.5 million, and as a result, the per manor per month, there was $12 per manor per month returned in 2022. No, not 12, 10, and then $8 per manor per month in 2023, and another $5 per manor per month in 2024. All right, and as surpluses accumulate, and they do sometimes, that will be returned to you in the form of a credit. Now, it's part of the budget process, but I don't think we've actually done an adequate job of you seeing it, because everybody will say, well, where's my surplus? What happened to the money? And so it's a good question. So what we've done is this year, when you receive your statement as to what the new per manor per month will be for GRF, you will see a credit. In this case, it's only $5, but I think they showed prior year also, and you will see $10 associated with that. So yes, I shouldn't say you, we've all received a credit as a result of money not spent in the prior year.
So one thing I want to bring out, I've been going over this green book, and if you look in the green book, it always shows where the surplus is. And you can find the green book if you go into the Laguna Woods Village website, and you go under documents and GRF, and then you go down and look at documents, and you can see the green book, and it shows the surplus,
Not in the green book.
and how it impacts
It's in the
you.
balance sheet, the financial statement. Not in the green book.
It is in the green book, but not the green issue, but the challenge with the green book is not everybody's going to look at it. Okay, I'm a financial nerd, so I looked at it before I got on the board, and so every resident, only thing a resident looks at in many cases is that statement that you get in, I think it's either December or December, as to what your dues are. Okay, and we've shown it as a net, and so you fail to see what that credit is. That's partially because by the time we decided that we wanted to put it in, they were already mailed. That was last year. So this year we are correcting it. We're getting better at it in terms of communicating. But yes, all of us have gotten $3.5 million over the last 3 years back, returned to us for money that's not spent. As part of the budget process, yes. Okay. Thank you for waiting, sir.
Okay, I'm Stuart Hack, 2393 3D. How far have you gotten on the process of what the charges are going to be for room rentals? Can you report to us where you are?
Good question. One of the reasons well, first of all, just remember, there was a staff financial suggestion, okay, and it had to do with them making some calculations and and also making some changes at the same time. Well, we didn't really understand all those changes. When we got into the details of it, there were lots of things that really ran into policy issues, all right, and also consistency issues. For instance, the GRF resolution, which is the document which says these are what the fees should be based on. It said that 20% that the fee should be 20% of the total cost. It turns out that we weren't even close to 20%. Now, in order to get right, there was some staff had recommended some enormous increases. We thought better of that. Actually, thanks to you guys, but by the time it got to any committee, remember, no GRF committee actually recommended it. It really came from a staff recommendation, which was then communicated to the clubs, and then at that point, that's when, pardon the expression, I can say this on TV, all hell broke loose. Okay, But we are looking at it because we have fallen significantly behind. Because if you look at when the last time they were adjusted, it was 2019. And since then, costs have risen quite a bit. So, but we've got to bring in some consistency to the process. And that was one of the goals that Bunny has and that the board has, is to bring some consistency to all the processes. It really hasn't, in our mind, it hasn't been a consistent process as to when you bring certain fees to the table and what the basis of them are. And so we're bringing, it takes some time to line up the process and the timing of that. And that's what the delay is. But I'd rather do it right than go out and just say, hey, here's what they should be.
So will we have input on that?
Sure, because once it is recommended, okay, just like any other change or increase or even decrease, don't count with that, but just like any of those, that comes to committee. Okay, first it'll come to committee, and then it'll go to finance committee, and then it'll go to the board. So there are 3 different chances to opine on any sort of changes that are made. Okay? Yeah. Again, nothing had been done before by any committee at GRF. It was really a staff recommendation, which was then given to, shown to the clubs. And that's, again, as I said, all hell broke loose.
So one of the things we should mention is that any increase in the club rental fees, by the time we get through the process, would not even come in effect until 2025. Because at this point in time, we would have had to approve it in order for it to be, available for when people reserve the rooms for the following year in mid-year. So we passed that point, and so it will be the following year before you would see any increase, but the increase would be approved by everybody. Thank you.
I know. Buddy, I just wanted to, I know we have people lined up here, but what happens is that when someone brings up a subject and someone has a comment on top of that subject, does it make sense to continue that particular subject and put that to bed and then move to the next one? I mean, I'm asking, I don't, yeah.
Okay.
Judge, so, you have a comment?
It's a follow-up question. Since I've been here 7 years, I'm Sean, I'm paying 307.7A. In the 7 years I've been here, I've never seen a genuine effort to reduce costs, to control costs, to reduce budgets, to give targets to the people that are actually doing the work, in this case of EMS. Every time we hear from GRF, generally, it's to tell us how they're going to raise our taxes. A tax and spend system in this village is not sustainable. You need to get your act together and start cutting costs instead of saying, we're going to raise all the clubhouse fees, the equestrian center fees, we're going to start taxing people that play tennis, pickleball. You just can't sustain it. You need to get on top of the costs. And I'm wondering why I never hear you talk about that.
Okay. I will, in deference to those folks who've come up, that's really got a little bit off topic. We were talking about fees, but I will address that later on. So bring me back to it, sir. Oh.
Good afternoon. Thanks for holding this town hall. My name is Ann Beltran, 8540. My question is about the possibility of cooling centers as our weather becomes more and more hot. That we have experienced heat domes, we could again. And what can GRF do to have a practice or policies about cooling centers for people who do not have air-conditioned homes, who who aren't going to sit for 20 minutes to catch a bus in the heat to come to the cooling center. It seems that given the age of our community, we ought to have a policy about how we will deal with extreme hot weather.
Thank you. Take that,
I was gonna make-
take that forward.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, take it forward.
I have one sort of curiosity and then a real concern. On the advertisement that shows the emeritus program, it shows a basketball court where people are doing Tai Chi. Is there a basketball court in this village? And if it is, where is it? Now, the second issue is of concern. Near my home, there is a trip hazard. It's in the sidewalk and it's raised at least a half an inch. And on July 17th, I wrote an email to EMS. I did get a call a few days later. They want to know where it was and they needed a building number. It wasn't my building, so I didn't know. I said, it's the first building in cul-de-sac 302. And I described where it was in the letter, in the email. Now, the practice seems to be when you find a trip hazard, you don't fix it, you paint it yellow. My neighbor tripped on one of those yellow painted trip hazards and she broke her hip. This was a few years back before the pandemic. Now this trip hazard is there, and it's my understanding that when those responsible for mitigating damages and injury learn of a hazard, painting it yellow only says that you know of the hazard. It doesn't mean you fixed it. And in my mind, and I think in my mind, you have an obligation to fix it before somebody trips. Painting it yellow only says you know it's there and you're not doing anything about it. And if you don't do anything about it, when somebody does hurt themselves, you have no defense in order to win your case with damages and injury and whatever comes with it. Why do they? The question is, when there is such a thing, I can't understand why it wouldn't be immediate that you get out there and fix it before somebody gets hurt.
I have no comment on this one.
Thank you, we'll look into it.
I am Pat Cameron, 226A. So first I'd like to express that I have the utmost faith in the integrity and transparency of this board as it relates to the space planning process that's going on. But my question is, flashing stop signs. I would like to know where I can go to see an objective, fact-based data report on the effectiveness of these signs. And secondarily, I'd like to know if more of these signs are being considered in next year's budget.
Okay, I'll answer the second question first. There's no budget that I'm aware of for additional flashing stop signs. Okay.
I chair the Security Access Committee, and if you come to the Security Access Committee, over the last year, we have been looking at that, and we've been going through reports, and we've been studying statistics of how many people run stop signs, where those are, whatever. What we have now is a trial, just a 6-month trial, and there are no plans at this time to add any more. And at the end of 6 months, we will look and see in those areas where the stop signs have been put, do we have a decrease in the number of people who are ticketed for stop sign violations? Then we would make a decision. If we don't, we kick them down.
My name is Dick Sadler, 461 in the Towers. First question is, does GRF currently have an energy committee? Okay, there was one a couple of years ago, and it was remarkably well run, but unfortunately that gentleman passed away. But we need an energy committee now, so one should be established. Why? There's a new energy source on the scene that could reduce electric consumption, payments for the electrical consumption dramatically. And this needs to be addressed by the Energy Committee. It's called SMR. We live in the world of acronyms, unfortunately. And this stands for Small Modular Reactor. And they are being installed all over the United States, and they're generating tremendous amounts of electricity. So the Energy Committee should look into this SMR issue and see how it's applicable to our whole village. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars of savings. So I would hope that shortly we will develop an energy committee to address this beaucoup energy saving, money saving issue. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, in fact, even before I joined the board, I was in the background helping that particular gentleman that unfortunately passed away. And behind the scenes, I would do ROIs for him. The ROI never worked out, sir. Okay? Because the investment, if you understand what's going on, and I'm not suggesting that the energy is solved, but the problem is, there's a reason the federal government gives you 30% credit. The reason is because as a commercial process, there's no payoff. There's a reason when you bought a Tesla, you got a 30% credit. We're not for profit. There's no credit there. So we all want to have cleaner energy, better energy. It has to make financial sense for us. And even the technology that you talked about that's recent didn't exist 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And if you look into the patents that have been filed, there are all kinds of solutions there. And so it has to be financially viable for GRF to invest in it. And it can't be an early adopter because we don't have the money to be an early adopter. So yes, and I think you were on the committee, and you also, by the way, GRF spends about a little over $1 million a year. So it would take a sizable investment for it to have any sort of return on investment. And that's just not going to, nobody's going to spend $15 million or so for an investment that's going to take 15 years to get a discounted ROI on it. Right? When I did the ROIs, I didn't even discount it. So it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell for us. But believe me, we continue to look at it because as you look at things going up, we want to make sure that we make the right investment so that to keep them at a level point. Or keep them going up. There's an investment required. Yes. Any other questions or comments on it? Can you come up?
Annie Zipkin, 523D. I just have a few things I wanted to bring up. One is about the red lights, and I'm happy to hear that that's just a 6-month experiment. Because what I find is that Laguna Woods was planned so well, and when I get to a stop sign, I realize I could see hundreds of feet. I could see hundreds of feet on either side of me. Like there's really clear visuality when you come to a stop sign in Laguna Woods. At least I live in gate 1, 2, and 3. And I also feel really bad for people who live right by those stop signs, because some people have windows right there by the corner, and this thing is just going on and off on them. And I think that's really to kind of go down on your quality of life to have something like that. The other thing is I was at a meeting a few months ago about Building E, and it was proposed that they wanted to build a $4 million building. And they showed these fancy pictures, and we have our 47 employees, and they all need something, you know. And a lot of people got up and gave alternatives, talked about the community center, talked about trailers, talked about things that weren't going to cost $4 million. Recently, I don't know what's going on, but I've been reading something about $7 million. You know, by the way, that went to both United and Third, and they voted it down. They said no. Those other boards that represent us, they said no, we don't want you to spend the $4 million. So now I'm reading about $7 million. I don't know what that's about, and maybe you can explain it. Thank you.
And everything Annie said is true, is from her perspective. Okay. And let me just explain it. Yes. First of all, Building E is the maintenance and security building over there behind Garden Center 2. Okay. It was built 47 years ago, and it basically was built on top of the asphalt there. Okay, not much of a foundation, etc., etc. Now it's been nursed along, as you can imagine. 47 years ago, it's been nursed along, and now it is basically to a point. It was to a point where you actually could not house employees there. Okay, without having, I'll call it OSHA issues. I don't know if anybody understands what OSHA is. Occupational safety hazard and something agency.
Have we ever been cited by OSHA in that building?
No, nobody's ever been cited, but you don't wait to get cited. No, look. Okay, well, and I'm not going to respond to that, but just understand something, that BMS is a very professional corporation. They've been working at this for a long time. So they know what standards are. In fact, an employer must know what the standards are in order to manage. All right? And so for us to say that, you know, let's wait for a violation, it's not really realistic from an employer perspective. But anyway, so that's what Building E was. All right? Building E was that. Now, at that point, I'll give you an example. When you call in with a moisture intrusion issue, you know the people behind the scenes answering your call on a hot day had to turn off the air conditioning to hear your call? That's an example of what that building was like for employees. So so what we did was we said, hey, look, let's replace that building. And the objective was to replace it because it's about 6,000 square feet. We're going to replace it. And you're right. The board, the GRF, took it to the corporate members. The corporate members, which is the mutual, said, no, we want some additional study on that because we don't really think you really need to do that.
That's what studies.
The study came back. A study came back which says, okay, well, how do you do without building that building? It turns out whether you buy it or not, okay, the study was very complete, and it came back and said, well, you don't really have to build another building, but in order to fit those people into the existing spaces that you have, now that you've eliminated 6,000 square feet, in order to fit them in, you have to do these things. Well, that's the Rolls-Royce solution. And that's the $7 million you heard about. Well, we're not going to take the $7 million solution. But it was put there to say, here's the $7 million solution, and by the way, here's the old solution, all right? And then somewhere, and so that was just information that we gave back to the other, to the neutrals. And then we said, look, we're going to go back. We're going to go back and see if there are any other solutions in between all of that. That's what we're in the process of doing right now. All right? We have a committee made up of all three boards, or four boards actually, members of all four boards that are looking at that. All right? So that's where we are in terms of the process. So what you've heard is absolutely the case. And obviously that $7 million, some board member from the neutrals has obviously put that out there, okay, in violation of their oath, because they weren't supposed to. That was all done. It's only data used to make a decision, which we're far from making a decision, very far from making a decision. But anyway, Andy, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but what are you doing now? So
We're-
what is the reality now?
The reality is we're still working on solutions.
No, with the employees
Hold
and
on.
everybody. Where are
I'm
they?
sorry?
The employees, where are they? What are you doing?
Well, first of all, we had to take the employees out of that existing building. And we did not have space for them in the building we have now. Okay? So we are renting space or leasing space in another building just to get them out. All right? And that's a 1-year lease with a 2-year option, another year option. I think. So that's the stopgap solution, because you can't keep them there.
Can it be a solution?
I'm sorry. I don't think it's a solution, but you know what? I'm not in it to. I am to make all those solutions available to all the folks who are involved in trying to make the solution. That could obviously that's something that is there now. That's a solution that the group decides on. When I say the group, I'm talking about the corporate members. That's a solution. It would be the one that I would do. All right. It runs about $200. The lease runs about $230,000 a year. That was your question. Right? And of course, there's an escalating clause. I think it's 3 or 4% or something like that. So we don't want to do that for long unless it's part of what we're going to do. One solution comes out of the reserve account, which, by the way, reserve accounts are built to handle those things with no increase in per man per month. However, if it becomes part of the leasing strategy, then that does impact the operating budget, and it will impact per man per month.
What is the recommendation of the study?
There was no recommendation of the study. Here's what the study asked. The study asked, what would it take to put everybody into one building?
How many?
I forgot what it was. 600, huh? No, how many of the, no, that's, okay. The study asked, what would it take to put all VMS employees into one building? Okay, that's what the study asked to do. So in between that, there are many, many options that we can take, but that's what the study was designed to do. Now, in order to do they actually gave us, they gave us 4 options. Okay, one was a variation of the other. The other option was to do nothing, and the other option was to a building 8. All right. Yeah, and so she's part of the board, so we got to the queue. So that's where we are right now, and we're still in the process of trying to make a final recommendation, and that's where we are.
On the same subject? Is that on the same subject?
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at the last GRF budget planning meeting, which I listened to on TV, the gentleman doing the presentation did talk about the $7 million, but only as a sort of contingency for 2024. So that was addressed, I believe, the $7 million.
Well, yeah, and that's a good question. I don't want to come over here. When you do capital planning, when we do that, when you have large projects like this, it goes into the reserve calculation. So if you decide you're not going to do something, it will essentially go away. All right, and it doesn't become part of the reserve. But if there is the possibility that you may do something, whether it's 7 or 2, you should put it in that so that it can then go for an approval process. Not the budget approval, but the project approval itself. And so it just makes good financial sense when you're doing a 5- and 30-year calculation of your reserve account to allow for the possibility that the board, or this board, or another board, may in fact approve a building or some sort of structure to house the, I'll call it the displaced 6,000 square feet. But keep in mind too, is that when all the solutions that were proposed, not proposed, but put on the space planning, each one of them impacted not services, but residential amenities. Because space is space. And as a result, when you take 6,000 square feet and you eliminate it, and put it in another building, then something has to leave that building. And what has to leave that building is table tennis, PC Mac Club, I think it was something.
Change in photography.
The photography. A lot of things changed, and all of those things impacted the amenities that we have. So 6,000 square feet is 6,000 square feet. Now there can be all kinds of solutions. So I'm not trying to say what it should be, because that's going to be up to this committee to make a recommendation. But it is not a simple issue. It is not very as simple as this, because things, if we were to take this building and reduce it by whatever percent, everybody may not be able to fit in here. So then you have to do something for those people. So that's where we are. There's been no solutions. There are no solutions right now, and no recommendations.
My name is Azar Askari, 935D. I'm correcting 2 of the comments that you mentioned, and I have 2 more comments from me. You mentioned that some directors give some information about building E and study out. Actually, that some member was you. In 2 finance meeting ago, 2 months ago, when somebody comes to the finance meeting and asks about building E, you were the one that openly, which I was shocked, said that there is a study done and we are researching. After that, I thought, wow, so people know. So that somebody was you. That's number 1. Number 2, you mentioned that these people that outside is $230,000 per year. Grab your calculator, is $5,000 per week. So if this study takes for us to study and paying $5,000 to them while we have some space vacant here, I don't think so is a very proper manner to really drag the leg and not make the committee really working hard and every week until we get a solution. Number 3, this problem for this building E didn't happen overnight. I hope you agree that. You said it's 40 years building. So probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when a beam come, when you were starting flashing, do you agree GRF failed to start a study that time? Because when we have 3 years, well, a member be there, a staff be there, and not paying $5,000 per week for them, we can do a study and then start what is the solution. So do you agree that GRF in the past board, or this board, or 2 years board, they failed to put in this one? This is important, didn't happen overnight, so I am back to you and ask you that why GRF didn't take care of that before that.
I can answer that, Azar. I think you have to understand the trust. You have to understand the trust. the trust basically says that GRF is responsible as trustee to maintain these buildings. So when we knew that Building E was we're gonna have to do something with Building E. And so based on the trust, we had already, and I was very involved with it, we had already done a space study in the community center. We did that, we did a space study.
Mutual offers.
Okay,
Okay, so let's don't debate, I'm just saying,
So correct your vote.
okay,
Mutual said, not GRF. GRF.
no,
Okay, can
Azar, I'm telling you the truth.
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
I am
let
the
me.
one that offered that one. What are you talking about?
this
First,
was several years ago, okay?
Hold on. Can I just interject? Can I just interject for a second? Okay.
So I just want to let you know that we looked at space studies, that GRF looked at space studies, and we also felt that Building E, based upon the trust, should be rebuilt. And at that time, it was like about 4.5 million that we came up with a plan. We also, in part of that plan, because we had to also reconfigure the community center, was part of that. And then we went to the corporate members. And they basically said no. Okay, so I want to tell you what's happening now. They said no, and we want to have a space study. And so what do you think that space study came back at?
Okay.
It was, I'm gonna finish, everybody was shocked. Totally shocked. They couldn't imagine that it would cost so much to just move around a bunch of people in the community center. So now we have to deal with that shock. Now we have to deal with the increased costs over the last couple of years. And I can tell you that if we would have gone ahead and built that 4.5 million, you would be 2 million ahead at this point in time. So all I can say to all of you out there, let us do our work. We want to find the best solution. We're considering everything. We are making all the mutuals a part of this so that we can come up with a feasible solution as to what to do, whether we need to build a building or whether we're going to put all those people in the community center, but so far the study shows that's not a good idea. So, thank you.
The report says there's enough space. The report says there's enough space.
Yeah.
There's not enough space.
Well, the report.
Enough space. Give us the report. Share with us the report.
Let me just respond to a couple of things. First of all, I'm sorry? Well, I'm running the town hall. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your suggestion, but we're running it. Thank you. Just about one of the things that we said. The Building E came up, 3 or 4 years ago? Okay. 2015. And I think we all understand time is money now. And whether you make an investment in 2015, because these are investments, whether you make an investment in 2015 or you decide to do it in 2024, there's a significant cost difference. Can be. All right? And so the MSC, which I think several people who were on that committee, who are no longer on the board, but on that committee, came up with their recommendation for Building E at that time. I'm not sure exactly what came of that, but that's where we are. There is a reluctance and I'm going to talk personally, there's a reluctance to reinvest. And I say reinvest because our reserves are meant to save money over a period of 30 years to reinvest in things that need to be reinvested in. And if you don't, for instance, any of these facilities, they start to wear after a while. And so at times there are major investments that need to be made to bring it to the standard that we all expect. So I'm not saying that we always make the right decision, but I can tell you this, if we don't make a decision for this thing called cost, after we have saved for 15, 20 years for these items, that's what we've done. If we don't decide to make the investment today, it's going to come up tomorrow. There's no question. It comes up.
Somebody says there's enough space.
It comes up. Now, as far as space is concerned, what the space, and it was an exhaustive space study. What it said was, if you optimize the space, bring the 6,000 in the in-house, you lose space for certain amenities. Table tennis has to move someplace. Okay, the place that it moves displaces another amenity, and the place that another amenity moves displaces another amenity. And so in each case, there is an amenity, a residence amenity, that is impacted by that move. Now, that may be something that we just have to deal with, and have to deal with that. Again, we don't have the solution yet. But if I can tell you this, that the building E was allowed for in the budget some 4 years ago, or in the allocation some 4 years ago, and we did not execute on it because I guess no decision could be made. So now we're faced with something that may be more than that, or we just decide not to do it. Either way, we've got 6,000 square feet that we used to use that's missing. That's the bottom line. There's 6,000 square feet. And if you look at what's going on today, we all came here maybe 5 to 7 to 12 years ago. And I tell you, was pickleball active 12 years ago? No. There are lots of things that are changing, constantly changing, that create the need for different kinds of spaces. We're limited in terms of the number of clubs that we can have. It's limited to 250. Why? Space. All right? So again, I'm not saying what the solution is. I'm just giving you what the problems are or the challenges that we face. That's all I'm saying. These are the challenges, and there's no easy fix, folks. There's no easy fix.
So the other thing that I
Help out.
want to just very quickly add is I don't think everybody realizes that GRF is short of space. Okay, we have these 250 clubs that are meeting in the rooms that we have right now. There's not enough space for you and I to go, for you and I to be able to rent, to have a party. Have you tried that? You know, a year in advance, a year and a half in advance. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that GRF does have the space for all of the clubs, to meet, and also a space for you as an individual can rent someplace for a party. So thank you.
Did you have a question?
Good afternoon, honorable directors, fellow members. Nancy Carlson, 303A. Since GRF has said they've never done a town hall, or they don't remember having done one in years, but our recollection is never. Thank you, Juanita. I've been here a long time, but I've never heard of a GRF town hall. A town hall is not just you come up and ask a question. It's about having an opportunity to make comments. So I have questions and a comment based on multiple things that have transpired. Not that I was particularly prepared that I would have this question. One is a comment. Don't mention OSHA if OSHA isn't involved and we haven't been ticketed or anything else. You need to seriously, you need to bridle yourself on that point.
Thank you.
Please, Juanita, please, if you want to speak, come up and speak, but the rest of us are doing politely. With respect to the comment about hazardous circumstances, I know this is peculiar because I'm standing here with my arm tied up from a shoulder injury it was approximately, I think, 2014 or something, I found some hazardous sidewalks where I was. I drew up the schematics, submitted them to VMS, said these are really hazardous situations. You need to get these corrected. Didn't hear anything back, did it again, did it again. Lo and behold, I myself became a victim of it, fell, broken shoulder. A week later, a neighbor fell, broken shoulder. Her son was an attorney. I'm sure you can tell the rest of the story on that.
And I want to remind you, Nancy,
So the thing is,
Nancy, I just want to answer the one question about.
there wasn't a question.
Your.
There wasn't a question.
May I answer you? Okay, because I would like
Well, you're
to.
making a comment. I haven't given you a question yet.
Okay, sidewalks, GRF is not responsible for sidewalks. Thank you.
I said I sent it to VMS. Correct. Is GRF responsible? Is it have oversight over landscaping? Yes, well, trees lifted these sidewalks, so we got all bottleneck. I think the gentleman who raised the issue before was dead on right. There's got to be some system, or even published in the breeze or something else, if there is a serious hazardous situation, this is the hotline you contact. I think that would be a positive move for GRF and VMS to do. So the solution is you can come to town hall and make comments, but it's also nice if you don't just come with a problem, you come with a recommended solution. Which brings me to Building E. Now, I've spent some years as a principal of an architectural practice that was joint venture in Silicon Valley. We did huge projects. We did planning and so on and so forth and space planning. This whole project connected to this Building E has been fast AdWords. The first thing that you needed to do was ascertain what it is you needed to do, and you found that you had a problem with Building E, which is not a huge building, and you had alternatives that you could have considered, like portables and so on and so forth. The bottom line is you want to move approximately 40 employees, and it's gone into, now we're going to build a whole new building and move all of VMS into it. There wasn't a study to begin with to ascertain what it is the issue you want to resolve. Do you want to be able to move all of VMS?
Nancy, you're incorrect.
No, I'm saying, giving you the suppositions.
Okay.
These suppositions
You're
were
making
not.
assumptions. You're making assumptions.
No, I'm telling you, these suppositions and assumptions weren't addressed.
I differ.
Show us.
And, correct, because if those assumptions and presumptions were considered, should we build one building? Should we have tear down the building, put in portable as a possibility? Do we need to move 40 people into different places? Do we need to spend $250,000 in rent in a building to move 40 people? Well, or do we have within the village and all the building space that we have, do we have existing square footage that we can utilize? And my observation of having some background in architecture and space planning is we sure as heck do. Now, those are the issues going to study. But you know what? Because GRS is elected to not be transparent on this, is why you're getting blowback from the members about what did the report say. I'm going further back and saying, what did you ask them to study? So what you're defending today is you didn't like the report that came back to you, but you're not telling what it is you asked, although Jim started to allude to, well, we asked them for this and maybe this new building. First of all, I think the members have a right, even specifically under David Sterling, to know what is going on.
Okay, Nancy, can I answer you? You can tell it really pushes my buttons when somebody comes up and makes false assumptions and misleading information. And I'm going to finish.
I can't make a
I'm
false
going to
assumption.
finish.
Excuse me,
I'm
because I
gonna
haven't
finish.
got the information.
Let me finish. Okay, false assumptions, misleading information. In the first place, this has been worked on for a very long time. I want to finish. The first study on Building E was done by a specific company.
Where?
Nancy, the first study was done on Building E, also included other types of manufacturing. Don't interrupt me.
It hasn't
Don't
been
interrupt
released.
me.
Yeah, can we, let's stop with the back and forth, please? Because I think you've made your point. point. You have made your point. Don't you think you made your point? What is your point?
There you go.
Yeah. What is
There
it?
you go.
Okay. So, so I don't think we need to get back and forth about. I think we've explained where we are on Building E. Nothing has been done. You're questioning what we're doing, how we're doing it, and look.
There was a letter to the editor last week in the Globe, if you all read it. And it was one of the members wrote it and said, if you need to find space for 40 people, give me this policeman. I know I can find space for 40 people.
Okay, may I say so? I'm the chair of GRF M&C. I want to say something about the process so we all understand what happened. The Building E, as was said, it has a history. It started about 5-6 years ago. I wasn't involved with GRF at that time. There was committee after committee, a lot of discussion, what they're going to do about Building E. There are a couple of main questions. Is legality. I mean, GRF is the trustee. Trustee have a number of buildings in the trust. So the first question when I took over the M&C less than a year ago, I asked, are legally we are obligated to replace this building for kind, because that's usually what the trust does. I still haven't got a clear answer on that because I think all of our, collective attorneys haven't been able to clearly tell me what is in this trust, what is the obligation of the GRF. If legally we have to replace like for like, there is no discussion because legally you have to do that. You cannot destroy a building and reduce the footprint in a trust if it's not allowed. So I don't know about that. So I'm not, I'm not attorney. I'll ask that question. But in my past experience, I've been executive and I built multi-billion-dollar projects for the Army, and I know some stuff about, some information about how these things work. When I took over the M&C, at that time, there was a decision was made because the problem was we had a problem to making decision. What we want to do with this building. Finally, they said, okay, we're going to rebuild it. I wasn't involved, and they took it to the corporate member. The cost was high. I agree. The cost is, for a 6,000 square foot building, you're talking about, at that time it was 5 million, now it grows to 7 million. And as it goes forward, it probably went 8 million or 9 million, I don't know where it goes. But still, we don't have that answer that do we have to replace this building or not. Let's put that on the side. Then we, when the board members, the other 3 boards, said no, they also commented that we want to do the space study because we want to see if you guys are capable of putting all of the staff in an admin building. That makes sense. Let's do this study. How we did this study, because that was your question.
Right.
How we did this study, the committee of GRF M&C, it consists of United, TURD, GRF, and Mutual 50. So all of these members asked the staff to prepare an RFP for to go out for a bid. They wrote the RFP, they brought it to the committee, the members of the committee, if you want to know exactly what was discussed, there are transcripts of it. You can go and look at transcript because I'm not going to go through the transcript. But everyone asked the question, what we want this company to do? And the RFP was prepared, was sent out for the bid. They selected a company, that company came in, and we interviewed them. And when everything was good, the committee at that time made a recommendation to the board. We don't make a decision, final decision, we make recommendation. So we make a recommendation to the board that that's what the GRF M&C committee, which consists of all of the mutual, decided to do this kind of study. The board approved it, selected the company to do it, they did the study,
the study came back, and at that time, it didn't come back to the committee because it's all board issue at that time. It went directly to the board, and that's where the major discussion started. What are our options? Building. This study says, you know, you can do musical chair and you can move things around. One of the main questions that was asked at that time, okay, look at the cost. If you want to build building E, and we want to do or we don't want to build it, and we want to do the musical chair, I call it musical chair because you have to do a lot of moving around. And the other option was do nothing. Just take the people and put them in the space outside in the release area. We look at the cost of that. Believe me, all three of them will wash the same cost. I'm not saying that cannot be changed. There are things that you can do. There are steps that you can take. But the cost was pretty much showing the same for either building E or doing according to the study, doing the moving around or do nothing, because do nothing also has a cost. And that's how associated with do nothing. The other aspect that that was kicked around is if we want to move people around, what impact is going to have on the member and on the space? Because you have to move a lot of things from their existing place to other place. Any of you that have experience with those kind of things, every time that you want to move from A to B, there are opposing views and there are four views. The opposing view also, the one that are stronger, the one that also have a higher voice, they don't want to do that. For example, if you want to move ping pong out of, community center to some area, according to the study, you have to lose some space. Even with that, you have to lose like 4 or 5 tables because you don't have enough space to put them all. With that, people in ping pong will get their gun and come after you because most of them know where you live. So I don't want to be that guy and tell them to move. But then you talked about moving the PC. The computer, when you want to move it from where it is to another building, the cost of pulling the fibers and moving things around and electrical work, that cost is huge. So all of those need to be considered. This is not something easy, and that's why no decision has been made. As I said, I don't know, as a person, as one of the members of GRF, I don't know if legally we can destroy building. Next day, if this building have problem, cannot remove this building and not build it? I don't know. That's a legal issue. That needs to be clear. And the other side of it is, we are responsible, as a GRF is responsible for the members. People that come here, they want to use the facility. That's why most of the people are attracted to this community, because extracurricular activities. They can buy unit in other areas, but they don't have 250 clubs, they don't have 7 clubs, they don't have, pickleball, they don't have tennis. If you guys close pickleball, I'd probably move somewhere else, because that's what I do. But anyway, those are the things that people are here for. And GRF is responsible to make sure that our members are accommodated. And they're here, their money is spent wisely on these facilities. And anytime that we want to change something that impacts the members, we have to be very, very careful. We have to consider their feeling, their needs, because it's your money, it's our money. I'm just like you. It's our money that we're going to spend. And we're going to be, I promise you, we're going to be very careful to make sure that every dollar that we're going to spend on this project is going to be looked at up, down, sideways, everywhere. We are not going to just crazy and say, oh, I like to build a building. No, that's not the case. It's not that we want to legally we are required to build a building. I don't know if we are. I mean, the point is mute. I mean, we are legally obligated. But the point at that time is like for like. Can I manage it with a good amount of money? Can we make sure that it's the right way to do any of those? So that's how these things was done. And on that issue, if you want any information of how the decision was made and what went into the into the RFP, all of those are recorded and available for your review and for your view at the grant.
Right, I'm just reiterating what the members said.
Thank you. There is so much opportunity for everybody to participate at the committee level, at the board level, with their opinions. We haven't made, as Ray said, there's been no decision on building it. We're still going through the process, and this is after 4 years, 4.5 years.
As you know, you saw me at the GRF finance meeting, so we do have $7 million in the capital plan proposed.
Capital allocation.
As I pointed out I do attend the committee meetings.
I'm not talking about you. This is not about you. But anyway, let me complete what I'm saying. And I don't know whether the gentleman was here that talked about spend. Does anybody have any idea what the GRF fee was in 2014? Anybody have any idea? How much? 115. It was $223.88.
For what?
That was the GRF per matter per month assessment. $223.88. That was 2014. At that time, what was the minimum wage?
What's the relevance of this?
I'll get to that.
2012, it was 1,500. It was 1,500. It was 1,500 in 2012.
Thank you. And how much is now?
7,500.
Thank you. And how much in Walnut Creek?
So
The capital budget
look,
on the August meeting
I've got the floor now. I didn't take it from you. I did not take it from you. I've got the floor. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I had not finished.
But you won't stop.
Yeah.
The capital budget that you presented August 8th, attachment 6 was $7 million. And the detail that you wrote was it's for space planning. Additional 700, I think 40,000, that's off the top of my head, was for.
And I think I've explained that that is a planning number. That's a planning number. That's a planning number that you want to allocate when you do your. Okay. As you can see, we've got.
Yes, we're losing our audience, and I apologize.
Yeah.
But
my point,
let's keep this a little bit more civil now.
My point was, GRF takes advantage of the opportunities it has to fund its reserve account as well as its operating account. And so we have to be creative. And one of the creations was back in 2010. Okay, the GRF board said, "Hey, look, there's a statute that allows us to take advantage of a one-time fee coming in." And when you look around, by the way, this was done in Sunshine, and it was changed in 2019, I think, or 20 when I changed it. But it was done openly, right? And what it is a fee that you pay when you buy a unit. It's a fee that you pay towards the future GRF, in other words, the reserve account. All right? Now, if you take Seal Beach, you take Walnut Creek, also built by Rossmore, okay, they do the same thing. Their fee, Walnut Creek this year, is going to be $12,000. I believe Seal Beach will be close to $9,000 or $10,000. Right? So we're doing nothing different. But what it does is it helps to defray your per matter per month, which goes into the reserve account. a part of which goes into the reserve account. That's what it does. It also allows us to preserve the assets and reinvest in the assets that were built for us back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50. Well, we're going on 60 years now. I think next year is our 60th anniversary. So it's not that, yeah, we have other opportunities, but we take advantage of those opportunities. Why? Because we don't want to unnecessarily raise our per man per month fees. We understand everybody has issues with that. Nobody wants to do it. But we've kept them fairly level. A lot of those opportunities will not exist in the future. But I think we've done, I say we, but 2010, since 2010, I think we've done a great job of making sure that we don't have to pay it out of our pockets every month.
I think that a lot of people get confused with the fact that they think that GRF gets all that money that they collect for the housing in for GRF. And GRF is just a very small portion. So if you really want to help your mutual, to lower your dues, then that's where you've got to talk to them. Because that portion is what, about 80%?
Yeah, that portion is anywhere between, depending on which mutual is, I think it's either 550 to 6 something. So it makes a considerable part, but rightfully so. That's where you live.
My name is Dick Sadler. Now I'm from 461 in the Towers. I got a suggestion for the committee to consider. And this doesn't it involves saving money and not doing anything with the current structure. Why not do what the rest of the United States manufacturing community does? If they have a high demand for their product, what do? They run a second and third shift because they've got millions of dollars invested in the plant, and the plant is filled with millions of dollars of equipment. To get the best use out of those millions of dollars, they run 3 shifts a day. 3 times 8 is 24. Why don't we consider a recruitment process where we staff the building 3 times a day, 3 8-hour shifts. The building stays the same. We don't have any costs in changing it. We just recruit employees to work at the 3 different times during the day. That's my suggestion, and thanks for listening.
Are there any more comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Paul Santoro, 5353. So what if I told you you could buy some office space? Right down the street, by the way.
Buy?
Yeah, buy.
Buy or lease?
No, buy. You can buy it outright. 3.365 million. 3.365 million.
How many square feet, Paul?
6171.
Oh, okay.
We missed out on a really good deal, the Wells Fargo building. 21,000 square feet. Much better deal. But, that being said, this one's right down the street on Scientific. You can house as much staff as you want. And you own it for 3.3. Maybe 3. Why is it costing us 4 to build one when we own the land? 7, excuse me, 7. Just a question.
Well,
Who's running your studies? I want to know that.
We'll look at all of
I think that's a great idea. I know I'll turn that over to M&C to come up with. I don't know whether that's been looked at or not. It's not a. Carl, you want to?
My name is Carl Randazzo. I used to be on the United Board. I was on the United Board for 3.5 years. I was on the M&C committee for 3.5 years and the M&C chair for 2.5 of those. I'm also an advisor on the GRF M&C committee, that all of these things regarding Building E and everything else came up during my term. I'm now kind of retired from all of that, so I'm just here as an observer, plus I pay my assessments just like everybody else does. And I sat through, I can't begin to tell you in 3.5 years, more budget meetings than I care to mention with regard to the fact of what the money was going to be used for, how it was going to be used. And if you ask anybody on the committees regarding this, I was always tight with a penny and tight with a dime, and I always challenged VMS to see how we could do it cheaper. Now with regard to Building E, we had started about 3 to 4 years ago to look at that Building E because they were getting complaints about Building E. There were some walls that had problems, there was some roof leakage, or what have you. Now, I spent 45 years as an engineer, and part of that 45 years I spent at construction sites, and I did a lot of engineering in a construction trailer. And that's what these things are. Building E was one step above a construction trailer. And I thought that going with a construction trailer format would be the way to go to improve what it was, but it wasn't that easy, because then you have bathrooms, you have other things that need to be addressed. We looked into it, and then we came up and we stopped the fact that we were going to build this $4 million bit. Well, thought about it. It was an estimate that somebody came up with. And we on that particular board, when I was the advisor on that board, we specifically said, no, we need to get an evaluation to see what space we currently have and how that space could be utilized. So then I was off of the board, and they decided that the people that were in Building E were now at a situation whereby they couldn't tolerate being in there anymore. I don't know what the story was. All I know is they moved them out, and they had all of those managers. You can't put managers on 3 shifts, okay? All of these managers, these are what these people are. These are not the people that go out and do your lawns, the people that go out and fix your faucets or what have you. Those people sit in various different places, and mostly in trucks every day. They're in their truck doing their thing. They meet in the morning and they go off and do their thing. So those people that currently are being housed in these particular units, whether it's in the community center, whether it's in the satellite buildings that we have them in right now, these people are the managers and supervisors. And these people need to have a place so that they can have their people come in, do their thing, and then instruct them where to go. All of those people that actually do the tools, they do the weed whackers, whatever they do, they're out. They're not in these buildings. They're someplace else. They maybe have a small little hovel someplace, a warehouse area over there that they commute with at that particular time, and then they get in their trucks and they go out. So we're only talking about people that supervise and manage these people, and there's 400 some odd people, I think. How many people? That this particular place has. Now, being on these budget committees, as I mentioned, I would listen to everybody saying they want this, that, and the other thing. And then I'd hear them say, but we don't want to pay for it. And you know what? I challenge anybody that goes to a supermarket today and find out what it costs you for that loaf of bread and what it cost you 5 years ago. So every time you tell me that you want to lower the prices and the assessments that we pay here in this village, I'm going to ask you to go to the grocery store and tell that manager of that grocery store that he shouldn't be charging you $3 for a gallon of milk. He should only be charging you $2 for a gallon of milk. You can't get this type of work done by these people and expect them to do it for nothing, because we are an employer around here that they can go someplace else and get more money for. They're being paid a comparable salary or a comparable wage, but it's not as good possibly as what they can get across the street. Now, as I said, I used to be in the engineering business, and we were I built power plants and I built refineries when I did this. And we were building a refinery in Louisiana and Katrina came through. And then after Katrina came through, there were so many places in that Louisiana area that needed people that we had to give them a boost in salary in order to keep our thing. We had to increase their pay by $20 an hour. So all I'm saying right now is, Building E, I don't believe we need to pay $7 million. And anybody that says that we're trying to build a building that's going to have everybody at the community center and put them in there, that was never the intent unless they changed their mind. It was to take those 40 or 50 people and put them someplace so that they can supervise their people, who are the landscape people, they are the M&C people, and they're the, I forget what else they're. Security people. That's what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. One final.
Okay, I think we are talking about two different things. Okay, the GRF is constantly, we work very hard. We try all these things. What I'm saying, and I heard many people saying, is that give us the information, give us the report, give us the RFPs, give us all the information to justify what you are trying to tell us that you deserve money. We're not saying it's not worth it. We're not saying you waste the money, but we want to know how do you justify it. And if the report says we have other alternatives, let's talk about it. Okay, please, let's focus on, we want transparency. Okay, that's what we want. Thank you very much.
Who's we?
Who do you think we are? Yeah. Yeah, not you, not you. I know it's not you. I know it's not you, except for you. You're the only one.
How much time do we have left? 20 minutes. 20 minutes left? Okay. I know we're losing the audience, but other than more questions, yeah.
Any more questions or comments? One other. Oh.
This started in 2015 and it's now 2023, almost 2024. How come it took so long? Number one, I have other questions, okay. The other thing is, I've lived here for 9 years. I totally don't get your governance here. Like, I really think we need a course in this governance, okay? I don't know where to turn. Because I know where I go. I go to the pools. I go to the pottery studios. Year after year, the same problems occur. The sidewalk comes up on the pools, okay? The heater goes out in the pools. The water reduces in the jacuzzi where I go, okay? Year after year after year. It seems to me you're all very reactive. You are not proactive. Where's the proaction? Okay, you knew this building. I don't want to get involved in this building because I don't know anything about it really, but from listening, I'm hearing that this building's been a problem for years. Where's the proaction? Where's your proaction? I just don't get it. Everything's reactive here. So step up.
And you're right. And now, if you want to know why it has taken so long, all you have to do is look at all the differences of opinions as to what to do. And that's not, that's kind of comes with the territory. You mentioned about the governing structure here. You're witnessing the complexity of it right now when you hear, what GRF is, who the neutrals are, including Neutral 50, and what their responsibilities are. So it is a very complex structure. And so when getting something done, like a reinvestment in something, requires that everybody be involved. And so when you involve everybody, that's 18,000 residents and 12,000 or 13,000 units, it's not always that simplistic. Because I think if you listen to M&C, even back then, they had a solution. 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had a solution.
But it only came up, the fact that it came up is because they started complaining in that building that they felt that they weren't getting the type of atmosphere that they needed, meaning the bathrooms weren't working, whatever. But they maintained every one of those particular buildings. I mean, don't think that all of a sudden they just make them go down and dilapidated, okay?
That's
They
my point,
maintain-
Yeah,
They maintain them, but you know, after a while, when you get a shack, and you're maintaining the shack, okay, the shack's gonna start coming down around you. And the thing right now is nobody wanted to spend X. To change out that building, that's a lot of money.
And there,
Nobody wanted to do that. They were trying to make do with what they could do.
and that,
Thank you for proving my point. There's no proactive.
well, but it is pro-action. And there have been, for instance, I believe that the floor needs to be replaced.
So you were
The what?
Floor needs to be replaced at Clubhouse 7.
Right.
Yeah. 4? Okay. Now, but my understanding is, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that came up about 5 years ago. And no one wanted to spend the money to do it. Now we created an emergency situation where now we have to bring in the fans and everything else to blow out the moisture intrusion issue. Again, if there was a reinvestment 5 years ago, you wouldn't have this. It's one of those things that they used to have it be an ad, if you pay me now or you pay me later. You have to reinvest in what we have. We've got $150 million in assets. It's a huge complex. And if you don't,
Get a new board every year.
and we get a new board every year.
Square one.
Yeah, okay?
Clubhouses now, the MNC, these clubhouses have a checklist now.
Yeah.
And they check every clubhouse every month now.
Yep.
Go over the checklist to determine what is happening, what problems there are, what kind of things that are going to happen. And we review that at the MNC committee, and the GRF, all
Yeah. And there are things improving. I mean, that's what you say. There are things that are improving. Remember, this governing structure has existed for a while, but not only that, the newest governing structure has only existed since 2015, where PCM
About
was.
7 years, yeah.
And so there's a lot of growing pains associated with it, but by and large, I believe that the management structure here is very intact and is making continual strides to improve at lower cost. Because if you look at what's going on, inflation has basically doubled since 2010. All right? Prices have doubled. Our prices haven't doubled. If you look at what's gone up, it's been insurance for the most part. I know our insurance has gone up from $8 per matter, GRF, from $8 per matter per month back in 2020. And now it's close to, I think, $23, $24 per matter. Just the insurance. We have no control over that insurance, although we've done a lot of shopping around, but we don't have control over it. It could have been higher if we didn't do some proactive things. So costs are going up. And you cannot have a community like this if you do not reinvest. That's what the reserve is for. And for those folks who say, oh gee, I want to spend now, if you don't spend now to invest, appropriately invest, I'm not suggesting that you just go out and buy something. But if you don't spend now to appropriately reinvest in what's already here, you're going to do it 3, 4, 5 years later at a much higher cost.
Invest always. The problem is which one?
Okay.
Make sure you're not wasting. Good job.
Couple of comments. I'm Dan, 46H. First one, an easy one. You know, to follow up on the last speaker, I'm interested in amenities, and I don't want to think complicated. How can I get the jacuzzi vacuum in pool 4? Okay? I don't want to go to 4 different mutuals. I just want to know what the process is.
What was the question again?
How do you get a jacuzzi vacuum?
Recreation development.
Pool 4.
Recreation.
Which meeting? What group?
GRF community activity.
Okay.
We go there and request and they put it up there.
So are you asking for a pool to be vacuumed?
The jacuzzi.
A jacuzzi?
The pool, I think.
Okay, the most important
No,
thing.
it hasn't been vacuumed since I've lived here in 2.5 years.
Okay. Okay, the important thing is for you to report that to the club, the manager of that particular
Start
clubhouse.
at the clubhouse.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
Now
then-
it's something a little bit complicated. You piqued my interest on budgets, and I think I'm fairly good at math. But when you're talking about money in the surplus that is given back, and you said there's $3.5 million in the budget that has been given back, and then you're talking about $5 to $10 per manor per month. That doesn't come out to $3.5 million in my math.
The number was, if you take all three together, 3 years, it was $23 per man per month.
How many manors are there?
12,736.
That's still not $3.5 million.
That's your cup of coffee.
Okay. All right.
I did the calculation before I got here, so I didn't want to.
It comes to 3.5 million.
$3.5 million. $3,515,000.
3,400,000.
Yeah, but no, it works out. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, we were just talking. We weren't talking building needs just now when I said 2015. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we were just cycling forward as to what was happening in 2015. That's all. It was per man per month. The government hasn't changed.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Yes.
Report, request for proposal.
She asked the question, what was an RFP? And it means request for proposal.
Where are they? Where are they?
Yeah.
Are there anywhere we can see?
M&C means Maintenance and Construction Committee. M&C Committee.
So we cannot see the RFP, we cannot see the study report. And you are the one that we need to trust you?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I'm
Well, we'll just say
trustworthy.
yes. Say it.
Never not that trustworthy.
So, Yvonne, did you have a question?
Does anybody have any question or about recreation for Christ's sake?
She's the CAC chair, and so she's asking if there are any questions in regard to recreation.
You know me, you know me, I'll be it with
Right.
Yeah, you're on my team. I know.
Well, I see
No questions?
we've emptied out the group.
Yes. And I apologize for
Yeah.
the going back and forth. It just seems like sometimes it's inevitable.
Well, there's.
Hey, come on.
I'm this is a town hall, so I'm gonna be pretty frank.
You're going to be what?
Frank, not general.
Okay.
No one wants to spend money if they don't have to. But there's a group, and there's probably several, but there's a group that really prides themselves on being very negative about everything. And they are actually formed to complain. Alright? And it's okay because nothing is perfect. But there are 18,000 residents here. And when you look at any of the surveys for resident services, et cetera, nothing's perfect. When you look at all the surveys and everything else, it comes up to be 92 to 95% approval. And so when we listen to complaints only, you get a different view of the world. And we have to struggle sometimes to understand what's really happening out there. Most people are enjoying themselves, prolonging their lives in the community by participating in pickleball and the 41 other amenities that are part of shared cost the 200 or so events that are put on by Recreation every year, and the 250 clubs that people belong to. So, and so one of the things that I do as part of my recreation is, don't get paid for this,
No.
is I want to contribute to what I think is a very fine community. And I know it's not that many people left here. But so I don't want to listen to all of the negativity. There's much to improve, and continuous improvement is part of any business. But when we start thinking about just complaint, you get a very bad view of what really goes on in this community. Most people out there playing golf, swimming, doing things like that. So I just thank all of you for coming. I'll turn it over to I have to say that. I'm sorry.
Well, if there's no more questions, you have one, okay.
I don't have a question, I'd like to make a comment. I've lived in the village about 5.5 years now, and my wife and I have made it our business to try to learn how this community works. I hear a lot of questions that indicate to me that people have not made any effort to understand how this community works. You need to do that before you accuse people like this. We need to understand and remember that these people are residents just like we are, except they volunteered their time, one hell of a lot of time, I might add, to help run this community. Just imagine if nobody volunteered to run this community, what shape we would be in. They not only have board meetings every month, they all belong to several committees and have to go to committee meetings. Now they've added town hall meetings again. These people do one heck of a lot of work. Are they perfect? No, none of us are perfect. But they're trying very hard. Jim Hopkins here could be out playing golf instead of dealing with all this finance business. But we need to understand that these people are not our enemies. We can differ, we can ask questions, but we should also do our homework to understand how this community works. That's what I've been trying to do, and that's what I would encourage you to do also.
Okay, with that being said, did you want to say something? No, it's over. Okay. I hope it's positive.
Most of it is.
Thank you.
First, I want to also thank you all for volunteering your time because I know it's a tough job. But I think, judging by quite a bit of hostility that I heard here today, transparency is probably the most important thing and number one on the list, so that people really know what's going on and maybe they won't feel so hostile. And I've been here 13 years, or 14 years actually. Next month will be 14 years, my goodness. I don't remember ever a town hall meeting with GRF. Maybe I missed it. I get a globe, that's where I got information. So that doesn't, say exactly what I would like to hear. So this is a good beginning, and I hope you continue so that we can be as well informed as possible. And I would say let the people that come to the meetings have the floor more than you can just answer the question, but you don't have to elaborate for half an hour about it. Thank you very much.
I've been accused of that before.
I really appreciate about transparency. I cannot be more in agreement with that statement. But it's a two-way street. Our member need to get involved with the committees to see what's going on. All the committees are open meeting. All the discussion, studies, everything goes on into the committee. They get together a group of people from Mitchell's and GRF and discuss those issues. If you want their transparency, go to the meeting. Get involved. Now get your knowledge, get yourself educated about what's going on. 90% of the members here, if you ask the governing structure of this community, they probably have no clue. They don't know. But when they hear something, then suddenly they just make a mountain out of little things. And because lack of knowledge cause rumors, and rumors cause problems. You want transparency, please get involved. Get involved, get the knowledge, come to the committees, get involved with the committees, ask hard questions. That's where you're going to get the answer. That's where you're going to be impacting the decision. That you're going to be impacting everything that's being done in this community. If you don't get involved, a group of people are going to make a decision. Then after the fact, if you come and complain, you're to blame too. Because you didn't want to get involved. You just want, as they said, easy money. There is no free lunch. You need to get involved in order to run this community the way that you think needs to be run. That's all I'm asking. Please get involved.
And applications will be open September 7th, 6th or 7th. We're looking to fill 3 vacancies.
And the pay is, one free lunch once a month? Something like that?
That's not free.
Yes, sometimes, that's right. One free lunch a month. But it is rewarding in many ways when you can get some things done with, because we would love to satisfy everybody all the time. That's impossible. 18,000 of us, 12,000, 13,000 homes. But we do our best, and we will, I think it was Bunny's idea to say, hey, look, we need a town hall. And I think, speak out of turn, but I think we're going to be doing these on a regular basis. Right. We did have a town hall for the bus when we were thinking about moving, allowing Agewell to manage the bus system, in fact, take it over. And that was one of those things where the money would have been better, but the service, losing control over such an important community amenity and service for money was not what we wanted to do. And I think overwhelmingly through town halls, you guys said the same thing, overwhelmingly. And so when we talk about money and investment, I always go back to the bus system.